This is the new Galaxy A17. This is going to be Samsung's super cheap smartphone that is actually going to sell very well. We've seen reports coming out of Counterpoint Research in the last couple of years where Samsung's Galaxy A1X series sell very well. They're actually the best-selling Android phone on the market, and they're right below the iPhone, typically right between the Pro models and the base iPhone that is available for that year. The Galaxy A16 runs for about $100 to $200 depending on where you look. And of course, what really helps the Galaxy A17 be so popular is that Samsung gets it onto every carrier, prepaid carrier, and MVNO that you can think of. Now, because of that price point, the design is not going to be the latest and greatest what we've seen on the Galaxy S25 or any of these other devices. As you can see from the bezels here, they are not symmetrical. It does have a pretty thick chin, and it does have a teardrop notch for that 13 megapixel front-facing camera. Though in the back we do have that vertical camera layout, which has been updated with the Galaxy A36 and A56 earlier this year, where now it's all blacked out instead of being color matching like it is on Samsung's higher end devices. Now, as far as specs go, we do expect to see a 6.7-inch display here. It will most likely be an AMOLED panel once again. And some rumors that we've seen show that it should actually be a 120 Hz display, which if that happens, that is pretty incredible considering Apple won't give you a 120 Hz display unless you spend 10 times as much on the iPhone 16 Pro and likely iPhone 17 Pro later this year. Now, under the hood, we do have that Exynos 1380. That's going to be some of a small update from the Exynos 1330 on the Galaxy A16 from last year. Now, we've already seen Geekbench listings for this processor, and it's really not that impressive. But then again, at this price point, you wouldn't expect it to hit, 2,000-3,000 on the single core. Instead, we're looking at in the 900s for the single core and just over 2,000 in the multi-core. And because that is such a efficient processor, that 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 25 watt charging should last quite a long time. Even though it does have that pretty large 6.7-inch display, we do expect that the resolution will be lower than what we see on other flagship devices. So even at 25 watts, you should be able to get through a day or two without needing to charge, which makes the 25 watt charging not that big of a deal. It'll also have 128 gigabytes of storage, and we're expecting 8 gigabytes of RAM, but there is a possibility that it could come with 6. But we are hoping for 8 gigabytes because it does have Galaxy AI on board, as well as One UI 8, which is powered by Android 16. Now, unfortunately, the Galaxy A17 will not get 7 years of update, but it should get about 3 to 4 years of updates, which is still pretty good for what you're paying for this phone. Now, let's talk about those cameras. We're looking at a 50 megapixel primary sensor, 5 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. Unfortunately, those macro cameras are still here, but we're only seeing it on this Galaxy A17 this year. We should be done with them in another year or so, which is going to be really great because they're just not that useful. These ultra wides, especially here on this Galaxy A17, is going to have higher resolution, so as long as it has autofocus, it'll be able to provide the same macro features that this macro sensor has. Samsung is also rumored to add optical image stabilization on the Galaxy A17, which would be a first for the Galaxy A1X series. We've seen it on the A3X and A5X over the years, but not on this super cheap lineup. Now, we do know this will be sold at T-Mobile, and we do expect this to be sold at pretty much every other carrier out there: AT&T, Verizon, Total by Verizon, Visible, Cricket, Metro by T-Mobile, just to name a few. Samsung typically gets these devices out to just about every carrier that they can. That way they can sell it in such high numbers, because after all, it was number 4 last year, behind the iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Pro Max, iPhone 15 Pro, which is quite impressive because it even outsold some of other Samsung devices like the Galaxy S24. But anyways, that is the Galaxy A17. You can head over to Android Headlines to learn more about the Galaxy A17, and we should see it available within the next couple of months.